Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm Jim Diedla, host of the morning show here at AM 1230 WJOB and 104.7 FM, the voice and face of the region. I typically come on right after I've done the weather and the traffic, and today's no different. I do want to point out, in terms of traffic here locally, that US 41 is down to one lane in both directions on the big bridge in Highland. I drove over it maybe 4 times yesterday, and each time it was just a little bit of a slowdown as you merged into the other lane, but I went at all off times during the middle of the day, and then late last night I took the daughter maybe 8 o'clock up. She had to get some things, so we went and did some shopping, and I could tell you this, that it was a harbinger of things to come, just moving over into that other single lane. If I'm remembering it correctly, they're working in the middle of that bridge first on the decking, so you're pushed over to the side on both sides. Well, at least I remember going northbound, you're pushed over to the right. Yeah, pushed over to the right on both sides, and so they're working on the middle, and you're up against things. Calumet Avenue in Hammond around Sibley Street is also going to be restricted, so you're going to have some longer times going over to Clark, going over to Knoll, going over to Hammond High. So we'll keep an eye on it, but by harbinger of things to come, I just want you guys to know that this is just the beginning. If you have looked at the list of upcoming road projects, I want to say that when I looked at it in the fall of what was going to be done here in Northwest Indiana, that it was like 27 road projects in Lake County, and some of them are just US 20, Indianapolis Boulevard, Calumet Avenue, and then I realized that many of them were north-south streets, which is really where we have our worst traffic here in Lake County and right across the state line in Cook County, even into Will County, and then over in Porter County. It is the north-south at 4 o'clock here when Tony Ponick and Ron Harlow do their show. You can look outside behind them, and that it is just stock full of cars and trucks going southbound during that rush hour. Here in the morning, it's kind of spread out. There's a lot of traffic out here going northbound on Indianapolis Boulevard right around, say, 5:10, 5:15, 5:30, 5:45, 6, 7. So it kind of spreads out. But when it's all coming at the same time between 4 and, say, maybe 3:30 and 5, you could just see what we're gonna be up against. I'm gonna predict right now that there will be a moment in the summer that it backs all the way up from that bridge in Highland to the Borman. That's a long way. You see what I'm saying? Do you guys agree that will happen at least once? And when it does, Ponick, it's going to happen during your show. So you point out that I made that rather nasty prediction. We do have something to talk about. Tony Ponick, can you grab this microphone here? We've got a couple serious things. Of course, you guys well know my grandmother passed away, and in the funeral and service will be in one shot. She was 98 years old. That'll be tomorrow from 4 to 8. And, if you're remotely associated, that's where we'll be. We'll be at the Calumet Park Chapel on Taft Street in Maryville from 4 to 8 tomorrow night. I will take off Thursday as you guys have never met my other sister, have you? Yeah, she is coming in for a whirlwind 18-hour tour, so I don't know if she'll make it over here, but they know my sister Jennifer, as she does the books here and stuff, and keeps us legit. As a matter of fact, I'm surrounded by a number of people that keep us legit. One of them is not here today, and that is Ryan Walsh, as he gets a well-deserved day off. It's a lot easier for him to take days off right now because Tony Panick's on the team. Tony, how you doing?
How's it going? Pretty good.
Hey,
Ryan Walsh still recovering after that barn burner yesterday.
He's a he's just a complete sports fan, and we all know that he basically put together the sectionals and all of this. He got Final Four on WJOB. Cool. We had the game last night, and I'll tell you what, man, that was kind of cool. I went in bed and laid and listened to it, but it wasn't much of a game in the second half. Yeah. But so he gets a well-deserved day off. But another guy we well know has a day off today, and we are asking for your prayers, which we don't ask for very often today, and that is for someone who is extremely loyal to all of you, and to Tony and myself and Alexis and the whole family. Ron Harlow's going under the knife today.
A couple hours from now, yeah.
A couple hours from now. And what could be I don't know, as much as a 9-hour surgery on his brain. So we are going to be kind of just on pins and needles right now. And hopefully we won't have to run up to Chicago for anything, and hopefully it all just goes well. But you talked to him yesterday, right?
Yeah, he called into the afternoon fix yesterday. Of course, he's at UIC in Chicago. He posted a picture, you saw online, in bed, because we sent him over some balloons and candy and stuff like that. So he seemed in good spirits there, and also on the phone, which is, pretty impressive. He had a sense of humor, and, I don't know how would I be before a brain surgery, but, he's still the same Ron Harlow we hear in the afternoon time,
I've known Ron Harlow for a long time. His sister married my cousin.
Ah.
Yeah, that's the people don't really know that. And they're like, well, why is Harlow so loyal to you, and why are you so loyal to Harlow? Well,
there you go.
Known him for a long time. And Harlow and I used to work for the South Lake Center for Mental Health. And we were counselors together. This is like a sitcom made in heaven.
I was going to say, it's like a TV show.
It's a TV show. When Harlow and I would be running group sessions, you just can't even imagine. All right.
Is there footage of that or no?
No, there's huge confidentiality issues there. But
I can see that
we used to schedule during the week. You got to work, but we used to schedule so that we both worked all day on Sunday. So 7 in the morning to 11 at night. And we would watch football all day with many of the residents of the housing unit where they were set. And there was a number of guys mostly that were huge football fans. So it was really where we got to know each other pretty well. And that was like in the early 90s.
Did you ever imagine you would have your own radio station, Ron Harlow have a show on it and stuff like that back then, or no?
Well, Harlow's got a way of, he doesn't have biting humor. He just has humor. Yeah. He doesn't if I'm going to make fun of someone, I might sting him a little bit. And Ron doesn't really do that. And we would, make jokes about football and so forth. So one of the things is Ron's always kind of basically writing jokes. So I wrote one yesterday.
Oh, you going to say it? He gave you permission to say it, right?
He gave me permission because he said as long as it's. I said, all right, here, Harlow, here's the joke. Let me just read it and see.
He was making jokes yesterday about it too. So
yeah,
he has a good sense of humor.
He's got a good sense of humor. But Harlow is saying that his surgery could be from 2 to 9 hours, and they're looking for it to be more like 6 or 7 to 9 hours. And I said, by the way, can I use this, Ron? Harlow's guessing 2 to 9 hours. I say 10 because his head's so big. And he's just like, well, evidently he went for an MRI and they put your head into a little thing and they had to readjust it and bring in a special metal bracket.
I got a bigger head too, so I understand.
So do I, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. But Harlow can appreciate a joke. But we're really, honestly, we're thinking about our good friend today up at UIC getting a major brain surgery today in an emergency in a hurry here. And that's all we can tell you right now. His texts have been reasonably upbeat. He just seems kind of bored. But he
doesn't like the food there, he said. He's not a fan. He wants, his...
that really surprises me because, Harlow is... I think pretty much. I remember how. Notice. I think last week somebody brought us food. Right? Was it beef sandwiches? Or was it Bono or
Bono beef?
Bono beef. Yeah. And people bring us food all the time, and then we have little. We get tickets, and I don't know. I've seen Harlow probably eat food from at least 100 different places in the region. Not once did he not like it, or did he have a negative thing to say about it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
This is hospital.
This is hospital food, so it must be really bad.
The weird Jello and stuff like that. You know, you don't want.
He's like, why isn't this Jello clear? What is in here? It looks like a fingernail.
You think by now hospital food would get somewhat more appetizing, but I guess it hasn't changed. I guess it's still kind of bland.
You got it. Today, we will not be eating hospital food here, unless, of course, we're going to zip up there, which hopefully we're not. They're going to Temple's going to keep us updated on what's going on, and the Tony Ponick was hosted for Harlow yesterday in the afternoon. And who will be hosting today?
We got Chuck Pullen today.
Chuck Pullen will be the host today at 4 o'clock, and Tony will be doing double duty as he'll come back, and he will produce that show. You'll actually come back at 1, right?
Actually, Sam's got a sad days. Sam's got a funeral, too, today. So
yeah, Sam presides over funerals.
He won't be in today.
Yeah, he won't be in. Sam works for the church over here and presides over the funeral. So, all right, man. That's all we could say. Anything else about this?
Yeah, we're encouraging people if they want to send our drop-off letters here, 7150 for Ron, 7150 Indianapolis Boulevard, Hammond, Indiana. Zip code always escapes me, Jimmy.
46324.
46324. Okay.
Yeah, and they can also doesn't he have a Facebook page?
He has a Facebook too. But if you want to be old-fashioned about it, some people like to read the letters and what are recovering and stuff. So we'll get those over to him.
Yeah, anybody, and there's already been one that's just come in, and a number of people have hit him up on Facebook. So just go to Ron Harlow, I think it is, right?
Yeah, Facebook though, we were talking about, man, that's the crazy thing because like now everybody knows what's happening. They're on the loop, and I know Ron was bashing it recently because was getting fed up with Facebook, but now I think he might have had a change of heart with everybody coming together and like surrounding
his hashtag delete Facebook went away.
Yeah, it went away. So
all right, Tony.
Once again, Facebook is a good thing.
Yeah, you can get him. All right, there it is. We wanted to talk about that. Thanks, Tony.
And I won't walk in. I think I stupidly walk in front of the camera, so I'll walk around the camera this time.
It is just a general thing that a lot of people do, except for Verly Suggs. She always walks behind the camera. I'll be right back.
To be like the pretty people on my TV.
Now you can.
All I need are gleaming white teeth.
We can help you.
Can you find the right dentist for me?
Dr. Andy Coulteritis.
Terrified of pain.
He's the kindest in the land.
He sounds great. Could you repeat his name?
Dr. Andy Coulteritis. 219-836-1111.
Thanks.
If you've been arrested or convicted of a crime in the state of Indiana, listen up. You need legal counsel. Doesn't it make sense to call an attorney who not only knows the law, but who knows the system? I'm Nicole Bennett, a former deputy Lake County prosecutor. I do know the system and how to help you with your criminal case. From traffic tickets to cleaning up your driving record to obtaining specialized driving privileges under the new 2015 Indiana law and misdemeanor and felony charges. And as many of you have experienced, I can even have your criminal record erased. Call me at Westland and Bennett in Cherville, 219-440-7550. Again, 219-440-7550.
Rush Radiosurgery deploys revolutionary technology in the fight against prostate cancer in just 5 outpatient treatments. With radiosurgery treatment for prostate cancer, there is no pain, no surgery, and you can go back to your normal activities right after treatment. Prostate cancer does not fight fair, and neither should you. For more information, contact Rush Radiosurgery at 312-942-4600 or visit us at rushradiosurgery.com.
No case is typical. Results will vary by patient, and there's no guarantee other patients will experience these results.
AM 1230, WJOB in Hammond, Indiana. I'm Jim Diedlow, host of JED in the region, hanging out with you guys today. And you want to talk to me, 219-845-1100. You could do that, or you could just text in and do it that way. But we're sitting here. We're going to soldier on with radio, and we're going to be thinking about our good friend Ron Harlow. Hey, Jed, good morning, but I can't believe you didn't let Knights in White Satin run its whole course. Tony Ponick was asking me to do that, but I'm like, hey, it's 5:37, and I wanted to talk about Harlow before Verly got here, and we did it. So that's it. That's really, I went to a Knights in White. I went in and saw the Moody Blues a couple of times, but one time I was a student at Berkeley, and I took the BART system out there. They have the Bay Area Rapid Transit System. And it was out there, I want to say somewhere in Walnut Creek or whatever, kind of one of these like Poplar Creek things or World Theater over here, where you have the Alpine Valley where they have the pavilion and then you sit in the lawn. Of course, I had to sit in the lawn back then. And if you were a student, you could get half-price tickets. You just had to go there. It was like 30 miles away. And the Moody Blues rocked it. But it was one of my first understandings that you're not in Kansas anymore, as there were just freaks everywhere, all over this BART station, and you couldn't use the bathroom, and there was an open-air drug market right by the train. You could basically buy whatever you wanted. And it was one of the few things that was close to the old wampum scene at Wampum Woods right across the state line here. One day I'm going to write the wampum story, and you're going to like it. But anyways, let's get back to this. What's going on in traffic? 294 around the city looks good. 80 going east and west looks good. Bishop Ford, Dan Ryan, Skyway, Toll Road, Borman, I-65 are all moving along pretty well. And traffic is brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda, proudly serving Northwest Indiana with superior customer service. And have you written a book? Learn how to get it published and potentially sold online and at bookstores. Call Page Publishing now for your free book publishing kit at 800-470-4833. Weather, I just hate to do this, man. It just isn't great. It's a high of 47 today. It's going to be windy and rainy, and gets down to maybe even a few snow flurries tonight as we get up to, say, 46, 47 around here. Gets down to maybe 28 tonight, so the water will freeze, and you got that to look forward to. And then tomorrow it just stays cold. A little bit of sun breaks through the clouds, and that'll be a high in the upper 30s. Get down into the low 20s overnight tomorrow night. And then Thursday, get a high around 40, 43 or so, and then shower and rainy on Thursday, and then it gets down into the 20s again. Then you may have a little bit of sunshine on Friday and Saturday, but it will be pretty brutally cold for this time of year. The normal high on Friday and Saturday is 55 degrees for this part of April, and your high will be 35 degrees, or set to be 35 degrees on those days. So 20 degrees colder. You actually get into the teens on Friday. I don't know about you. I took the garbage out yesterday morning, or was messing around with some stuff outside before I came in, and I'm like, man, is it cold? And then I realized when I was standing outside yesterday, it was 17 degrees. It's 23 degrees warmer than that right now at 40 degrees here at the Strachan Van Til Studios on the campus of Purdue Northwest. All right, let's hit a couple of news stories here of what's going on here. Now, you remember this janitor who filed a complaint against Anthony Higgs? I'll tell you what Bill Dolan in the Times has to say about this. Lake officials have fired a county courthouse janitor who filed a complaint that he was asked to notarize candidates' applications on county time. If you remember that, it was a complaint basically against Anthony Higgs and maybe some others. The guy's name is Kyron Sims. He's out of Hammond. Said this week he lost his job cleaning the courthouse on Russell Street in Hammond, and he was paid $21,855 annually. And if there is any part to this story that actually pops out, I mean, the rest of it is just same old stuff that goes on here in Lake County. This guy complaining about this and on county time, and politics, and always the name Bob Cantrell comes up somewhere in it, and you get the same old story. And really, when I worked here in the mid-'80s, by the way, we are going to have a guy by the name of Pete Marzano join us soon. And there are longtime listeners that have been around since I was here in the mid-'80s. There are a few of you that remember me being on in the mid-'80s. And there are a few of you that remember in the late 70s and maybe up to the mid-'80s. Pete Marzano being on. He's 90 years old. His granddaughter's going to bring him in here, and we're going to reminisce at some point. But anyways, I was going to say, basically, when I was writing news in the mid-'80s as a Cub reporter, many of the stories are just kind of the same stories that I would have done then. Election complaints, sign stealing, calling each other names ahead of a primary election. I mean, this story with Kyron Sims and Anthony Higgs and the Lake County Election Board, I swear I covered almost the exact same story in the mid-'80s, and I can't remember who the players were, but I just remember the situation of somebody working in a county job and getting fired for being asked to maybe get some flowers on county time and saying, no, I don't want to do that, and then getting fired, and then it being a big hullabaloo. If anybody remembers the particulars of that case, get a hold of me. Anyways, Kyron Sims is he filed a complaint before the Elections Board. Sims said his supervisor, Anthony Higgs, also a Hammond councilman, took him away from his county work in February to notarize official forms for several people to run for members of the county's Democratic Precinct Committee organization. Higgs is the maintenance supervisor for the Lake County Board of Commissioners in the Hammond building. Okay? So what does this mean now? Sims now is notary public, blah, blah, blah. State law requires those running as Democratic Precinct Committee members in the May 8th primary to have a notary authenticate their signature, okay? The Sims said he was fired during a meeting by the end of the week by Higgs and Tom Dabberton, who handles human resources services for the county as a private consultant. Sims said he intends to sue on grounds his termination was politically motivated. Dabberton denies the firing was political. Made public this week a letter he sent to Sims on Friday stating Sims has been recalcitrant and insubordinate to Higgs over routine work instructions. During our meeting, you refused to listen to instructions and made comments which were inappropriate, blah, blah, blah. Sims has complained he was never paid to do the notary work requested. Let's see. Lake County Commissioner Mike Repay said last week he considered the timing of Sims' election campaign to be suspicious since it happened shortly after Sims had been warned of potential disciplinary action against him on routine work matters. So, what in Sam Hill's going on here? And for some reason, I get the feeling this story is bigger than we're getting it right now. I don't know what seems to be there that's larger, but I just get a sense. And typically, after doing this off and on for 33 years now, sometimes you just get a sense. And I got a pretty bad sense about this case that is going on in Gary at the Lakeshore Dunes Apartments. We've all covered this at length. And that is the case of Kristen Gober. Evidently, she left her two kids in her apartment and went out and hung out with the maintenance supervisor. And then they started a fire, and the two kids died. One other kid was an 8-year-old, jumped in miraculous fashion, was caught. He jumped 4 floors, and he was caught in a blanket by people that were standing on the ground. Some woman had the wherewithal to go to the second floor, grab her blanket, and then make kind of like everybody catching the kid as he fell down, and he made it. So there it is. Kristen Gober cried as she consulted with her public defender in front of a judge Monday. The 33-year-old pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of neglect of a dependent, resulting in death, and some other ones. 2 of Gober's children, Chris Gober and Kalani Gober, died March 25th in that Gary apartment fire. Judge Diane Boswell lowered her bond further Monday from $200,000 to $125,000. Now, evidently, the dad wasn't happy about it. I would have liked for no bond, said Chris Harden, the father of Christopher, sat outside the courthouse in Crown Point. Hardin fought back tears as he spoke about how he will never get to see Christopher again. It's not my child, it's my heart. It's not just my child, it's my heart. So in the Times, they added a little bit more to this. As you saw this on Channel 2 and 5 and 7, and all of the Chicago news stations were down there. As this story's actually getting national attention. Now, the husband is extremely upset with the wife. Evidently, the girl, the mother of his child, evidently he was trying to take her away ahead of this, and she was unable to get this ahead before this. Let me see if I can find that article, but I don't see it right now. And the building's maintenance man said the children's mother was at his apartment when the fire started. He said they spent the previous night drinking vodka and she fell asleep at his room. The formal court appearance will be coming up here, and that was yesterday. So the father was upset. He was already trying to get sole custody. He said he had feared for the life of the kid, and they were going through those proceedings. So horrible story out of the city of Gary. You guys know that. It's a tough one to cover. I'll tell you what, let's clean the palate. Let's hear about the Purdue technology going on, and then Verley Suggs and I will pick everything up right after this on the voice and face of the region, AM 1230, WJOB, and 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. Also streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Yikes!
Looking to advance your career? Earn a master's degree in technology online in just 18 months from Purdue University Northwest. Our graduates tell us their master's degree in technology, leadership, and management results in promotion and higher pay. Call Purdue Northwest at 219-989-2966. That's 219-989-2966 to get ahead today.
Fill your garage with your dream car during the Honda Dream Garage Spring event going on now at Napleton's River Oaks Honda. They're Northwest Indiana's destination for new and certified pre-owned Hondas. Napleton's River Oaks Honda has a huge selection of brand new and certified pre-owned Civics, Accords, CRVs, and Pilots. Come find out why you always get our best deal at River Oaks Honda. As always, Indiana residents pay Indiana sales tax right off 8094 on Torrance Avenue or online at riveroakshonda.com.
Napleton, second to none since 1931.
Ironworkers Local 395, through their contractor employers, the Northwest Indiana Contractors Association, are the workers you see building Northwest Indiana. They are the craftsmen building your schools, hospitals, malls, steel mills, and manufacturing plants. They support local charities, including Tradewinds and Chasing Dreams, and they coach your kids after work and on the weekend. They live, work, and contribute to all of our local communities' economic growth. To find out more about these organizations, visit ironworkers395.com or nwicontractors.org.
You know, I enjoy watching basketball at home, but I think we should go over to Johnny's Tap in Munster for drinks and fun.
Yeah, I like going to Johnny's Tap.
Speaking of fun, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. and Mrs. Fun.
Mr. Who and Mrs. Who?
Mr. and Mrs. Fun, but they're at Johnny's Tap.
Okay, I'll see you there at the corner of Broadmoor and Calumet Avenue. Yeah, I like going to Johnny's Tap.
Johnny's Tap. New ownership, now smoke-free, and still the home of Mr. and Mrs. Fun.
A real neighborhood type of place.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? 611 in the Calumet region. I'm Jim Diedlow, host of JED in the region. Let's take a look at traffic. 294 looks pretty good. 80 going east and west looks good. Division 4, Dan Ryan are lighter than normal. So is the Skyway Toll Road, Barman I-65, US 30, and Decline Avenue. Keep us updated, anybody with text. You can text me to 219-845-1100 on what's going on Indianapolis Boulevard. The big bridge in Highland by Meyer is down to one lane in both directions, and believe me when I tell you that that's going to be a big problem all the way through November. So that's a summertime full of headaches coming your way, baby. And but anyways, traffic moving along well, brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda. proudly serving Northwest Indiana with superior customer service. Let's take a look at what's going on in the weather. Let's call it about 40 degrees here at the WJOB Strachan Van Til Studios. It's 39 degrees at Local 395 of the Ironworkers Union in Portage, and in Munster it's 41 degrees at 41. Laborers Local 41 in Munster. And going right now, the winds pretty mild at about 5 miles an hour out of the east. That's going to shift up in a little bit and become a big deal. They're about 8 miles an hour out of the east. And a little bit later, we're going to get a nor'easter coming our way with a windy, rainy day. And that wind's going to come out of the northeast at about 15 to 30 miles an hour. Tomorrow, it gets down to maybe even some flurries tonight. And then tomorrow, you get a little bit of sunshine, high in the mid to upper 30s. Thursday, a high around 40, maybe even a little bit warmer, but you got some more rain coming in our way. And then Friday, some extremely cold days for this time of year. Highs of around 35. That's 20 degrees below zero. 20 degrees below the normal at this time of year. All right, if you guys are driving to the north, by the way, they're getting a huge snowstorm basically from Madison on up in Wisconsin, and that's moving into Michigan and Minnesota. And so there's all sorts of roads closed. It's an April snowstorm. That can really hurt. Verly Suggs, how you been, huh?
Fantastic.
Did I catch you off guard?
Well, I had my mic turned off, so I wouldn't be making any noise in the background.
I know you're awful busy
like
over
munching or anything like that.
Oh, stop, will you? Verly has her iPad set up on a really nice, expensive-looking, propped-up thing. She has a whole notebook full of things. And then, of course, her phone hanging there right in front. And she's ready to go, baby.
Always ready to go, Jim. Last night was a share. First of all, I have to offer condolences for the loss of your grandmother. And definitely prayers sending out to Ron Harlow as he goes through surgery today.
Yeah, and let's just reiterate that Ron Harlow is going through brain surgery today at the University of Illinois, Chicago, and he'll be getting going pretty soon. And we're all just kind of thinking about it, and it's just a bit bewildering, and hopefully we're just shaking our heads at the end of the day going, wow, I'm glad that went okay. And that's what we're looking for. So, you know how many Eastern European women living in North Hammond just did the sign of the cross? A lot of them, I'll tell you that, and rightfully so. And,
well, I'm not Eastern European, but I'll do the sign of the cross as well.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. It's kind of happened in a hurry, and all of a sudden they just rushed them up there, and here we go. So we're hoping for the best at this point.
Most definitely.
So, what else is going on? What were you going to say?
Well, last night was the sheriff's
thing. That's
here
right.
at Purdue.
Yeah.
Nice event, well attended. All 9 candidates were present, including the Republican candidate, Dan Burzak.
What did you get out of this thing? Let me just say, all of the candidates, Betty Dominguez, Oscar Martinez, Nate Hall, Rich Ligon, Dave Dowling, Wally DeRose, Mike Brown, Maria Trajkovic.
I could actually say them without reading them.
Burzak. Okay, so what did you get out of this? First of all, did they get along?
Oh, yeah. Everyone got along very well. There was a little, I guess with Betty Dominguez and Oscar, they were sitting sort of next to each other. So she always followed him, except for the one time when the round began with her. So there was a little bit of biting coming from Betty towards some of Oscar's responses. Of course, Oscar took the opportunity, because he's already the sitting sheriff, to every time that a candidate answered the question, they were supposed to give their name. So Oscar was able to do that subliminal message of saying, Sheriff Martinez, Sheriff Oscar Martinez, Sheriff. So every time he responded, of course, he put Sheriff in front of his name. And I thought that they all gave pretty good answers to the questions. I could have probably X'd out about 4 or 5 candidates that really didn't need to be up there at all. But it was a really good forum.
Who's this race between?
The race is between the 4 main characters. And, of course, Sheriff Martinez, David Dowling, Michael Brown, and Richard Ligon.
You don't mention Betty Dominguez in that.
think Betty has a chance. I think she is there basically to pull votes from one candidate or the other. Yeah, and of course there will be those who say, well, she's number one on the ballot. She's a female. There are going to be people who are going to vote for her just for that. She has years of experience being a probation officer. Well, I put her years of experience in the same bucket that I put Mike Brown's years of experience being an administrator. I don't think he has a chance of winning either. But when I say he's one of the players, I say that because what he'll do is take away votes from Richard Ligon, just like Betty Dominguez will probably take away votes from Oscar Martinez.
All right, so let's talk about racial politics in Lake County.
And I'm not going to say just racial because he's an African American, because Nate Hall is black as well, and I don't think he's going to really be an entity at all. When I say take away votes, it's the name recognition of Mike Brown. It's the fact that he has been elected and run for other offices, recorder, now clerk. And so his name is a familiar name on the ballot. That's why there's another Mike Brown on the payroll right now at the county, because of that same name, Mike Brown. It's a familiar name.
I guess if you look on the bright side of this, and, some people may, I guess, disagree with this part of it, but I think almost most of these people that are up there, at least the main characters that you've mentioned, and all of them have decent amount of experience and seem to be reasonable leaders. Mike Brown, Rich Ligon, Dave Dowling, Oscar Martinez, and Betty Dominguez. Betty's been, basically the support for Roy all those years. She knows how that whole department works. She worked in the county. So even she, would probably maybe not have as much, office experience as some of these others. But out of those main five, that's some pretty good heft. And it is good to see that there are reasonably qualified people going for an elected position.
Oh, most definitely. That was the best part of the whole event, was that everybody was reasonably qualified. If you recall, many times in the past when an individual died in office, wasn't able to fulfill their continued role in their position, they'd have their wife come in, like Earl Harris and others, and run, to go in that office. So I could have seen Betty maybe come in if something had happened where Roy didn't finish his term. But to consider her as a serious candidate, I'm sorry, Roy, if you're offended by what I'm saying, I just see it as politics. I see her in there as politics. And, of course, Roy Dominguez definitely knows how to play the game.
I guess I'm learning still at this late time because I don't really pay attention to it. Like, I make jokes about Kuziak and Baker, and I'll be sitting around and they'll start talking politics. And they'll know I'll drift off because it's never been my topic du jour. Now, if they want to start talking about the Cubs or the Bears or Munster High Athletic Department or whatever, or even business topics. But typically, I don't quite get this. So I was looking at this, and I'm like, all right, so you have Betty Dominguez putting a complaint in about Oscar Martinez saying reelect when he had not been elected by the people. He had been elected by Democrats. So I think at some point he changed it to retain on a lot of his stuff. And in that complaint, she put in something that happened in the Times. There was an ad placed in the Times. And then she put in the complaint that on the show here, one of our guys on the Facebook thing had Oscar Martinez for sheriff instead of just Oscar Martinez sheriff. Real little letters, it was for. He didn't notice it. So, and I asked the guy, I said, now listen, I understand that there might have been a minor infraction in the Times, and maybe there was. Maybe
it was a billboard on US 30 that was her main.
Yeah, that too,
right.
But also something in the Times. And I understand that on the Facebook portion of here, we may have made a mistake and so forth. But I asked this political person, I said, now listen, is that something you want to do is kind of piss off? To go, bring the Times and WJOB into your into your game. I mean, you could really have called and just said, hey, you know what, you made a mistake there. And we would have put out an apology and made a thing on it. Instead, we're in an election board complaint. We're in the middle of all this. And I said, well, why would people do that?
For publicity.
Anything
that gets your name out there and in front of the public is important. But the thing about that whole WJOB thing, it wasn't the fact that you had the banner that said for or retain. It was the fact that he was on the Lake County Sheriff's show and you had a political banner advertising him being on the show. So they were saying he was using departmental funds for his election. So that's where that lies in.
I understand that. And then there was something else in the Times, and the I forget what it was in the Times. There's something that they put an ad in, and that there was a complaint about it. And I understand that shouldn't have happened. Although when I researched it, we are guarded by the FCC and the FEC laws on radio, but on Facebook Live, there's really no laws. And so you have a whole different set of people that would garner that. So actually, the Election Commission probably might not have jurisdiction over a Facebook Live thing.
No, see, the whole issue is not whether they have jurisdiction over you, WJOB. It's not about you. It's about the fact that he was doing the Lake County Sheriff's show, and they used an advertisement for him running.
We didn't charge him for that.
Right, but you charged him for doing the show, right?
We charged him for doing the radio show.
Right.
So there's no regulation on Facebook. So I went and I called the guy, and it cost me a few $100s, and he's like, well, technically there's no violation right now because there's no there's no federal election laws that would guard what was going on.
There's no violation against you, Jim. That's the whole point. It's not against you.
It's not.
It was about him. It wouldn't have anything to do with you. You were just Exhibit A.
Okay, I get it. I don't want to argue the merits of the case because it's in a gray area.
Yeah.
And so my point was, I'm like, well, why would somebody do that? They just bring in the media and really make us look bad, because here's the downside of that. It's like nobody likes to be brought into your bullshit mushrooms.
Well, then you can look at that whole issue with Jackie Sutton, right?
Yeah.
And that was the first question that was asked by Michael Fuente last night.
What?
About that social media.
So let's talk about this. So I guess what it comes down to, I'm like, well, why would someone do that? And they're like, they don't care. Everybody's just out for themselves. They don't care who they piss off during this whole thing. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't like being brought into people's stuff. I really don't. That's the number one thing that bothers me.
Well, your name and WJLB has been mentioned in a lot of news stories. This is not the first. It won't be the last, because as long as news people are out there watching and listening to your program, as long as it keeps replaying or they can go on Facebook, you're always going to be used as a source. So if McDermott comes on or Copeland comes on or Dowling comes on and they say something that's pertinent to a news story, it's going to be in the news. So just deal with the fact that you're part of the media here in Northwest Indiana.
I don't mind that part of people quoting and so forth.
Negative or positive.
I just don't like being brought into people's stuff, and they know that. And people call me and they're like, you know how many people call me and threaten to sue us?
I can imagine.
You know how many times
that
happens?
A few.
Yeah, and it's like this. All right, listen, here's how this goes. I'm going to take what you got to say. All right, good enough. Okay? And this is the first time, and I'll take it once, and you're going to call, and you're going to feel like you intimidated me, and look what I did to Jim D. Okay, that's fair enough, okay? But you get put over into this category, and there's several of you in Lake County, especially elected officials. Fair enough, I got you. You're right here, okay? That you're going to go right to the lawyer thing, and you're going to, like, stick it up. And
there's a whole lot of different lawyers for those elected officials. When you come to, slander and libel, hey, you know what? You're a public official.
Good enough. And I just know now what you're all about, because typically what happens is people will say, once in a while, a lot of folks will call you up and say, hey, Jim, I got an issue here. What do you think we can do about this? No mention of lawyers. No formal complaints anywhere. It's just like, hey, man, we're all swimming around in the same fishbowl here. Let's just figure it out. What do you got a problem? All right, cool. Thanks for calling me. I'll deal with this, and we'll go forward. I don't like to be threatened by that. Okay, fair enough. Your next phone call's over to Dave Glass. You want to deal with that one? Go ahead. And then the second one is, you know what? Why you got to bring me into your crap? Are you kidding
Now,
me?
let me ask you this in reverse. Have you ever threatened anybody?
To sue them?
I've heard you threaten Comcast quite a few times.
Just Comcast. And that's just, I don't threaten to sue them. I just want to get them. I just think that they're so incompetent.
It's just a power play.
Here you go. Hey, listen, politics is a blood sport. Who said that last night? Bursack said that. So Martinez said he too believes in freedom of speech, but anyone posting harmful information under a synthetic identity should be held accountable. He said a prosecutor and a judge signed on to the warrants used to trace the Facebook account of Jackie Sutton to those using it under assumed names. Dominguez, Eddie Dominguez, said an official investigation of political name calling is, quote, a waste of taxpayers' money.
Yeah, that was the first question asked by Michael Fuente. And basically, all the candidates felt it was a waste of time. It's part of the process. You're running for office. Mud is going to be slung. Oscar Martinez was very defensive on that regard in the fact that, because the main part was him using resources to trace that email. And most people felt that he shouldn't have done that.
So what we're talking about is the incredibly humorous case of Jackie Sutton. It is I guess it's a pseudonym. We haven't been able to find a real Jackie Sutton in Lake County, and Jackie Sutton made some very deep accusations over the past months about Lake County politicians. Evidently, Sheriff Martinez used some resource, or somehow traced it back to 3 locations that they say it is, and that is the home of Dave Dowling, the home of Bobby Cantrell, and then to the Crown Point School Corporation, if I remember the story correctly. And it has a lot of people talking, but really some of my best material comes out of Jackie Sutton, because remember Dave Dennison? Dave Dennison is the pseudonym by which some say that President Donald Trump went in dealing with porn star Stormy Daniels.
And so he also used a different name when he called one of a news outlet once before he was president, and was basically doing an interview, and it was Donald Trump. They know from voice testing, whatever. But
was it Grant Putnam? Did he use Grant Putnam?
I don't recall the name, which one he used.
But come on, this Jackie Sutton is really funny.
Is the site still up? Are people still visiting the site?
From what I understand, it's still there, right? And here's how I look at it.
I've never gone on it.
I'm guessing it's still there because whoever put it up there, if you go on to log in somewhere and put your password in and then delete the site, then you'll be tracked immediately.
But I mean, are they still contributing to the site? Is it still,
are people putting in comments?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think the main thing was the posts.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing about that is that basically it's a fight between Democrats that's going on up here. And now they've invited the Indiana State Police to come in and look at who Jackie Sutton might be. And then, from what I understand, at some point, to prove that they were harmful things, they might have to look at if some of the things that are proposed are true. Mm-hmm. And then you got to start investigating these folks.
Well,
so you have
true, like Oscar being a part of the KKK. We know it's all fake news, so to speak. One thing about it, it's really affected Dowling. He's very sensitive to it. And when he gave his closing remarks and he talked about his father being the former police chief in Hammond and about his name. And my husband has that same, legacy about, your father and honoring your name. And David Dowling, you could tell, my father said, always make this a name to be proud of. Don't ever do anything to, smudge your name. And he's very upset about this whole thing. You can tell that he's not behind it. And he's very offended by it. And don't look at me like, yeah, right.
No, I'm looking at you like, I can't believe that this kind of lunchroom bickering is going on in at the level for the highest office, basically, in Lake County.
Well, what I can't believe is the Democratic Party chairman who made all this talk about staying out of primaries and making the focus the election in November and always beating the opposing party actually has the party endorsing candidates in a primary.
She is Verly Suggs. I'm Jim Delo. We'll take your phone calls right after this short break. Don't forget, wrestling is coming to Morton.
ARW Pro Wrestling, the best in the Midwest, returns to Morton High School in Hammond, Indiana. Max Holiday teams with Ivan Manson to face Old School Manson and Drex Odell. Mr. M80 Marche Rocket versus the Dark Horse, Nick Cutler. Greg Glover takes on Anthony Totelli. Moxie Molly meets Stacy Shadows for the first time. Aggravated Assault butts heads with the Machine and Johnny Showtime. And in a three-way dance, Excalibur versus Dave Allen versus Theo Storm. All the titles are on the line. Saturday, April 14th. This is a fundraiser for marching band uniforms. Doors open at 6 p.m. Showtime, 7 p.m. ARW Pro, the best in the Midwest. Morton High School, Hammond, Indiana. Saturday, April 14th. All the action, all the excitement, and everything you'd expect from ARW Pro.
Men, are you taking Viagra or Cialis for ED? ED should not stand for expensive drugs. If you're taking Viagra, talk with your doctor about Sildenafil. Now you could get the same active ingredient in Viagra in generic 20 milligram tablets for less than $2 each, saving over $30 per dose. Available at Vito's Pharmacy. Call us 219-228-7200 or visit us at vitospharmacy.com.
Vito's Pharmacy.
Do you have a family history of heart disease or diabetes? St. Catherine Hospital Cardiovascular Prevention Center providers are offering free assessments to help determine your risk for heart disease and other related medical conditions. On Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 9 to 11:30 a.m., you can stop by the center at 7217 Indianapolis Boulevard in Hammond for assessments like an ABI leg circulation test, blood pressure, body mass index, random glucose assessment, and more. You must be 18 or older, and walk-ins are welcome. You have only one body. Let St. Catherine Hospital of Community Healthcare System help you take care of it. You can also call 219-392-7CVP to book an appointment today.
Eduardo's Natural Pizza in Munster has built a reputation for serving the finest Chicago-style stuffed pizza, loaded with fresh and natural ingredients. Not interested in stuffed pizza? Eduardo's has the best thin crust pizza, appetizers, salads, pastas, and more. Pick up a half-baked pizza from Eduardo's to take home and bake at your convenience. It's the perfect solution for those hectic nights. Eduardo's is located at 7920 Calumet Avenue in Munster. Dine in or carry out by calling 836-2010.
Hey, there is a silver lining here in that I have, as you guys well know, my grandmother passed away and all sorts of people coming from all over the country. And tonight I get to see my daughter from New York City coming in. And then also tomorrow in the morning, my sister, who never comes in, I have a little sister that lives on Long Island, and she'll be coming in. So it's going to be a kind of a hectic one day in and out for my grandmother's funeral. That'll be Wednesday from 4 to 8 at Calumet Park on Taft. I think it's kind of between 73rd and 30 on Taft in Maryville. Nice place, and we'll all be out there. All the Polacks will be hanging around in a hullabaloo. I talked to Sheriff Oscar Martinez. There's 2 or 3 possible fist fights that might erupt at any moment, and he has been notified. A high of 47, breezy with periods of rain today. It's just a windy, rainy day. And winds right now are out of the east at about 9 miles an hour. But later, we have gusts up to 30 miles an hour as a nor'easter is going to whip off of the lake, and it's just going to hit you right in the face. And even though it'll be 47, it won't feel like it, put it that way. Tomorrow, high in the mid to upper 30s, brisk and cold with some sun. And then by Thursday, a high of 43, cloudy with a shower or two. And then it gets real cold on Friday and Saturday, a high of about 35 on both those days. And maybe even a little bit of snow tonight. We're going to get a little dusting when we come into work tomorrow morning. I will be off Thursday as we have the funeral on Friday night. I'm taking a bunch of people to the airport on Thursday, so I will be out. Also, just if you're just joining us, our own Ron Harlow, the afternoon host, say a prayer for Ron as he is entering brain surgery today at UIC and in a very quick turnaround, and we are all Just thinking about you, Harlow. If you happen to be listening, I think they're going to start taking him at 7 o'clock, so he may be listening. And Harlow, thank you for okaying the joke about the size of your head. I appreciate it. And but Harlow appreciates a good joke also. But they're looking at about, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours to 9 hours or more today. Harlow could be under the knife. So let's move on. Also, let's take a look at traffic. By the way, weather is brought to you by our own Laborers Local 41, of which I'm a proud alum of that fine union. And then also, let's take a look at traffic. It's 294 around the city. Looks pretty good, actually. But to get there is a problem, as you have an accident right before 290. Well, no, it's actually a stalled semi in the center lane, and that is backing things all the way up to Torrance Avenue. So it's right there where you turn to go on 294 all the way back to Torrance is stop and go because of that semi in the center lane. You guys know at this hour it's very difficult to get somebody out there. They got to hook it up. They got to pull it out. I mean, that's a big deal. And that is a big deal if you're going to the airport, if you're going out to Joliet right now. I wouldn't go through the city because you run into Jane Byrne, but, you know, you're going to have to, you know, right now, it's not a bad idea to take 159th across and get on this toll road that way. Hey, the Bishop Ford, a little bit lighter than normal at the merge. Still have a little stop and go, but not too bad. Dan Ryan itself is pretty good up to Jane Byrne at 22nd Street. Skyway, Toll Road, Borman, I-65 are all moving along well. Do not forget that US 41, Indianapolis Boulevard through Highland is down to one lane in both directions through November as construction crews work on the decking of that rather large bridge over the railroad tracks going into Meyer there. Yesterday, not too bad on the traffic, but we'll keep an eye on it. Gino will talk about it in the middle of the day. Sam in the midday, you know, Harlow's show, he's going to have some substitute hosts. Today it's Chuck Pullen. Yesterday was Tony Ponick. They'll all follow this also. And there you go. Traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda. Verly Suggs is in town, in the house with me. She's not flying today. You're not flying today, are you? You going to turn that mic on or what? You going to turn up?
I try not to fly on Tuesday. Last week I was in D.C. for a conference.
What kind of conference?
For Purdue School of Ag. But I got really sick, and I ate at this really great restaurant in D.C. I won't say the name, but I didn't even get to go to the Pentagon, and that was like the highlight that I had planned for was to be at the Pentagon, and didn't get to go. I was sick in bed the entire day. I did make it the following day down to Capitol Hill, but man, the Pentagon was like going to be a highlight of my life because I had never been there.
I was going to say, do they let people tour the Pentagon?
We had special.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I asked about that when we were there. You couldn't do it.
Yeah, we could, but I didn't get to.
Oh, man, that is a big miss.
Yeah, I know.
Verly Suggs and I, we were talking a little bit about the sheriff's get-together of the 9 sheriff's candidates yesterday here on the campus of Purdue Northwest.
But can we take those patient callers that have been waiting for some time?
Verly and I sharing our emotions about the upcoming elections. Of course, I share with you a lot that this could be my least favorite time of the year. And Verly saying that it is one of her most favorite times of the year.
It is one of my favorite times of the year.
Who are we talking to here? Let us go to...
go down the line.
Let's go down the line. Dave was first. Hey, Dave, how are you?
Morning, Judd. Morning, Burley.
Good morning, Dave.
Condolences to your family, Judd.
Thank you.
Grandma.
Thank you.
There's something said to having a shot of whiskey every day will give you a long, prosperous life.
Yeah, and a little buzz in the afternoon, too.
Exactly. And, of course, Ron and Temple, prayers to them. And I'm sure Ron he has pages and pages of jokes written already about the size of his melon that he already makes fun of himself with. So he'll be fine. He's a fighter. He's been through a little more serious things before, so him and Temple will be just fine. So.
Yeah, just to reiterate that, we're talking about the same Ron Harlow who beat cancer first time around. I mean, it was a rough one there. So, all right, man, we're thinking about it. We've mentioned it. We talked about it. Harlow knows where we're at. Let's go. What do you got?
Yeah. No, just listen to the show. It's my first day back. Kathy and I got off the plane last night.
Where'd you go, Dave?
Arizona.
Oh, okay. What part?
Lake Havasu, Phoenix and Lake Havasu.
Okay, great.
And, yeah, So it was a nice break. The weather was beautiful, and come back and on my way to work, and westbound 8094 is wide open between I-65 and right where you mentioned Torrance, where it comes to a screeching halt. But the other 15 miles is awesome. So if you're going westbound, that's great. I have a question for both of you, since you're talking about the silly season and everything that goes on about it. And we're never surprised, you know. And you're right. A lot of them are shameless. They'll P.T. Barnum, say whatever you want about me as long as you spell my name right, you know. But what do you both feel in regards to endorsements? Does that hold anything?
It can sway people that were not familiar with the candidates or who respect your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So
in regards to like the Lake County Democratic Precinct and all the local municipalities and precinct organizations that, you know, get together and vote, and most of the time it's for the incumbent, of course, but I would like, you know, newspapers and organizations, and not just the precinct organizations, but, you know, the realtors and firefighters and laborers and everyone that they're backing. I'd like to know. I'm still kind of in vacation mode, so I don't have much spunk right now. But
you know what? I'm going to address that right now. Okay, thank you. I got an announcement to make. I just want everybody to know that we are going to make an endorsement for sheriff, and I'm going to tell you who it is right now. The endorsement for sheriff is, and if you didn't catch that, I'm sorry. We missed that one this time around. So the FOP endorsed Oscar Martinez.
Yes, I heard that.
Yeah, so, I mean,
Which
I don't know.
is to be expected. He's already in office. He's the sitting sheriff. I don't know, you know, if they would have done the same endorsement if he were not already elected sheriff. But it's interesting that they did endorse him over David Dowling, who was a police chief for over 34 years.
So, and then people ask, why don't we endorse? I'm like,
why
really?
would you endorse? Why would you do that?
Why does the Times
cutting
endorse?
off your nates? Well, newspapers do endorse.
Why?
Because they don't care.
I think that's an old anachronistic thing that should go away. Hey, let's talk to Mary on line 4. Hey, Mary, how are you?
I'm okay. I just wanted to let you know that I saw the first political commercial yesterday, and oddly enough, it was on the Food Network.
Who was it?
Betty Dominguez.
Really?
Ah.
Already, huh?
But hitting those Food Networks, all the women voters watch the Food Network.
Yeah, I was very surprised.
Smart.
They show her walking, I guess, towards the government center. She's in uniform, and she doesn't speak, but they have, somebody in the background. And at the end, they show the family. I think that picture's been in the Times.
So what do you think the message?
Would that sway you, Mary?
Pardon?
Would that sway you? Seeing that commercial, that campaign ad, would that make you vote for the individual?
No.
Okay.
No. I was just kind of surprised that I thought it was a kind of early. I thought that political signs had to be up exactly a month before the election, but I didn't know if they could run commercials earlier.
Yeah, they can run commercials as long as they want.
Hey, think about the governor's primary in Illinois, for how long we were inundated with the, Rauner and Quinn, and that was Attorney General, and Pritzker, and all these guys. I mean, it was all over the news for months.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you can have billboards up ahead of that. That political signage is just for yard signs, basically.
Okay, I knew about that. I didn't know about the commercial. Yeah. But I was kind of surprised, and then it was like I say, on the Food Network. So maybe that's where I had the chance to run it. I don't know.
So, speaking of food, what are you making for lunch today?
I have no idea. We'll think about it when we get around noon.
Who's we?
My husband and I.
So you guys don't plan a meal ahead? All of a sudden it's noon, you go, what are we going to eat?
Yeah.
It's usually sandwiches, because then we have our big meal at supper.
What kind of sandwiches? Bologna, ham, turkey, what?
Bologna, ham, turkey, whatever, what we can find. Maybe a can of soup to go along with it. Something like that.
Do you have bologna in your refrigerator right now?
No, we have leftover Easter ham.
Leftover Easter ham. It's even better the next day, right?
That's exactly right.
You got some potato salad in there?
No.
So what good's the ham without potato salad?
Well, we had diced potatoes, fried potatoes. We didn't have potato salad. So,
Okay.
it was good.
All
But
right.
anyway, I just wanted to let you know that was the first one I saw, and I was kind of surprised it was on the Food Network.
Well,
Thanks for sharing that, Mary.
Thanks, Mary.
Okay, all righty.
Hey,
Bye-bye.
enjoy your bologna sandwich today.
I have
Thanks
never
a lot.
had a piece of bologna in my life. There is no way I could take bologna to my lips.
Well,
I mean, I just can't. No.
I grew up on bologna, and I don't eat it now either. I would never eat it.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, and as a matter of fact, when I was a kid, we would fry the bologna up, and you wouldn't need grease because there was enough
There's
grease.
so much
in
grease in it, right?
In the bologna, and then you would fry it up, and it wasn't any better fried. It's actually might have been better just cold and like raw.
No, there's a place in South Bend that my husband likes to go, and you get a bologna sandwich. It's like an inch thick, fried or grilled or however, and there's like no way. That to me is like a heart attack.
Does he eat that?
Yeah, he'll eat that. I mean, it's rare. He might get it once a year, but it's real famous. Real people go there all the time for
What
that.
would you rather have if somebody made you eat it? Would you rather eat bologna or Spam?
Neither. I would just not eat at all.
Let's go. Let's take some phone calls. Let's go to Bill on line 1. Bill, what do you think?
Jim, I just wanted to put out a shout out for Harlow. I listen to him all the time. My prayers out to him. But I just want to let you know, as an individual of Lake County, I have no affiliation with any certain party, but I had to see everything myself. I want to go where all the information comes out of. And I have to tell you, Betty Dominguez, every time she started talking last night, every time she got the floor, she always started out, well, let me tell you. Well, she made me feel as though she just sounded like a recording. The only person I really felt was really, really honest and true had to be Oscar Martinez. He's a man of honor, I believe. He didn't try to put on any kind of show or anything like that. I may have gotten the wrong signal from all of them. David Dowling, he did a good job. I mean, he represented his force quite well. But to tell you what, I think Oscar Martinez got not a large lead, but in my eyes and what I've seen, very large crowd.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you a question about this, all right? Betty Dominguez, woman, right? I think Maria Trajkovic was up there, but Betty Dominguez probably the front runner as a woman, a leading woman. Does it affect your thinking that she's being somewhat aggressive and she's a woman? In other words, that was one of the things that was put out recently, especially in the Hillary campaign. It was that when a woman gets aggressive, she's seen sometimes as, in a negative fashion. When a guy gets aggressive, that's what we look for and what we expect. So let me ask you this. Did it affect your thinking that she's a woman?
No, not one bit whatsoever. Look at Jane Byrne. I mean, Jane Byrne, she was good for Chicago, I thought. She brought unity to the city of Chicago. It seemed like it.
Yeah, but even I remember those days, and I remember that there were many people that, I mean, if it was open season to call Jane Byrne the other B word, and it was well known that many people were not nearly as open-minded as you are, and that they were unable to accept a woman in charge, and quite frankly, a very aggressive woman. And did she sometimes do things that might have drawn people to be more likely to use that B word against her? Yes, she did. But in the end, I just hope that even in evaluating Betty Dominguez and the rest of the candidates, that it is not a gender issue, is my point.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm asking
yeah.
you that honestly, and if you come back to me and say, yeah, I guess you're right. If it would have been a guy, I probably wouldn't have paid that much attention to it. But it's a woman, and I just thought she was being a squeaky bee. And then that is a problem. So I just wondered.
It just felt as though it was all premeditated. You know, like you could see every time it was getting close to her time to speak that, you know, her husband would, he was like maybe halfway in between the crowd on the end there, and, you know, like they prepared themselves, you know, they knew exactly what they wanted to say, when they wanted to say it, and it always started out, well, let me tell you this. Let me tell you, you know, that was telling me she's giving me her view. And I don't know, like you say, it's the most important, probably the most important election we're going to have. And I'll tell you, hands down. I mean,
okay. Hey, listen. Yeah, we appreciate you going out there and giving us your
the thing about it. You just said it came across that she was giving you her view, and that was the whole point. Everybody up there was giving you their view.
Yeah.
I mean, her husband was sitting right behind me, so I think that Betty, you know, of course, she has the influences of her husband, just like Marissa McDermott had those of hers. But I think she was speaking as she speaks.
Hey, thanks a lot, Bill. I'm gonna address this. You see, here's one of the things that I guess is something to think about in elections right now, and that is, I really don't think that someone should be given a leg up because they're a woman and they're up there. I don't think that is that should be an advantage. But equally, I just think that I hope that people are digesting policy and leadership makeup not based on their own old gender prejudices. And gender
prejudice are still going to exist. Racial prejudice are still going to exist no matter what. You know, we can ask for fair and balanced. People who are going to be fair and balanced are going to be that way regardless. People who are going to go against gender or race are going to do that regardless.
But if you ask somebody, sometimes you ask people, it's like, hey, listen, let's think about it. If what she was saying exactly was said by a man, would it have been taken by you in the same manner?
No.
And at least you have the question.
People have a problem with strong women.
There you go.
I know. How many years have I been doing this that I've had people with problems against me because I'm outspoken? So it's going to always exist, but it seems like we have a traffic issue.
Yeah,
so
we do. We got some traffic going on. Big Rich, what is that?
Hey, good morning, Burley and Jed.
Good morning.
There's not really a traffic issue. I just heard it was getting slow around the merge, so I did my usual Klein Avenue down to the toll road, paid the ransom to the Skyway, then a Meg Ryan, and then all the lights are on. Do the Sox play later today?
Lights are on today? Oh, yeah.
Lights
today. I thought it was tomorrow. Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Well, unless they're testing the lights out.
Yeah, there must be. I'm pretty sure that the openers. Now you got me all messed up, and I'll have an answer in a second. Yeah, they're at the Blue Jays tonight. Well, it's coming up soon. Put it that way. I'll give it to you in a second. But go ahead. What do you got on traffic?
So it was about 30 minutes, and I'm going on a Chinatown feeder ramp, thinking of Glover and Ron, and I think you should. I think your grandma would be all right with you putting the wake and stuff on Facebook Live, because I think she'd be celebrating that all the family gets together, and it sounds like it's going to be a good time.
So it should be a hullabaloo, and that's for sure. Hey, by the way, it's actually on Thursday that the Sox open up at home at 3:10 versus the Tigers. Yeah, because I know that because Debbie Wargo's taking a half day because she's going to the game on Thursday.
Congratulations on your new role.
Yeah, I was appointed, so well, thank you, and so it'll be interesting running in November. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, it looks like there's going to be another appointment. Someone else is leaving, so
yeah, Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, we'll get to that in a second. 219-845-1100. I'm going to take one more. We got to take a break. Charlie, what are you doing?
How you doing? I want to see my priest to Ron Hollow.
Yes. Let's all say our prayers for Ron Harlow.
And I got two candidates for sheriff.
Okay.
Bullets and Roy Rogers.
Bullets and Roy Rogers? I know who Roy Rogers is. I don't know who Bullets is.
The dog.
Oh, Bullets the dog.
Yes. So what's new with you? What's new with you?
Oh, with me?
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of talking about that all day today, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to look up Bullets and Roy Rogers, and we're going to talk about that in the next segment.
When you going to get Johnny and Steve on?
Pretty soon, Charlie. Good hearing from you, buddy. 6:57 in the Calumet region. I'm Jim Deedlow. I'll be right back.
Ogren Insurance has been serving the area since 1947 and provides insurance for life, home, auto, business, and more. If you're looking for one-on-one service, the best rates, knowledge, and experience, Ogren Insurance is your agency. Our number one goal is to provide you with the coverage you need at the most competitive price. To learn about the insurance solutions and services we offer in Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan, call 219-933-0076 or see our website, ogreninsurance.com. Ogren Insurance, 6929 Holman Avenue in Hammond. Accidents happen. Be protected with Ogren Insurance.
Hi, I'm Tom.
And I'm Michelle.
And we're the Tomfoolery Fun Club. We're pleased to announce that Tomfoolery will once again return to the majestic Hoosier Theater in Whiting, Indiana for a very special event.
The Fun Club will be back at the Hoosier for an evening of delightful comedy and some amazing live music.
That's right, Michelle. The incredible Mickey Housley headlines a most talented lineup card of top-flight comedians.
On the musical front, fan favorite Nomad Planets will be in the house to rock the night away.
Please join us on April 14th at the Hoosier Theater in Whiting for this incredible Fun Club night out.
For ticket information, please go to tomfooleryfunclub.com.
That's tomfooleryfunclub.com.
For a fast and friendly car wash, go to Easy Clean Car Wash. Easy Clean is happy to announce their new location's grand opening at 1637 45th Street in Griffith. Open 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Or stop by one of our 3 other locations in Highland, Cherville, and Lansing. Free vacuuming, carpet shampooer, air freshener, and towel with every wash. And it's fast, easy, convenient, safe, and gentle. Go to myeasyclean.com for more information.
Mayor Anthony Copeland, along with the Department of Redevelopment and East Chicago Housing Authority, cordially invite you to attend the 2018 City of East Chicago Fair Housing Month celebration commemorating the 50th anniversary of the Fair Housing Act of 1968. This free event is on Wednesday, April 11th from 10 to 11:30 a.m. at the East Chicago Public Library, 2401 East Columbus Drive. Guests can tour the exhibit in the John C. Templeton Gallery at the main library, featuring artwork from the students at Joseph L. Bach Middle School. To RSVP, call 219-391-8513.
Knock, knock, who's there? 7 o'clock in the Calumet region. I'm Jim Deedlow, host of JED in the region, here on AM 1230, WJOB, and 104.7 FM. Also streaming in audio on the TuneIn app. Just got to download that app, and you can listen to us anywhere. And then, of course, and video on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. It's Tuesday, so I have a co-host, and that is Verly Suggs. And she's got something she wants to say.
Well, you had a co-host last week as well.
Who was it? I forgot.
Did you have Mayor Tom McDermott and was it Chuck?
I had Chuck Pullen
Yeah,
last
Chuck
week.
Pullen.
Yes, Chuck
and then,
Pullen.
Right.
And then I had Mayor McDermott later in the week as a guest, and we're going to talk about some of the things he had to say in just a moment. But let's take a look at traffic first. 294 around the city looks pretty good. 294 looks good, but getting there is a problem because there was a stalled truck in Hazelcrest right there when 294 veers off to the left and 80 is to the right. Right before there was a stalled truck in the center lane. Looks like they may have either are in the process of moving it or just got it moved. And still there is traffic from 294 exit there all the way to Torrance, where you'll get stop and go. Dave from Gary reiterated that when he was driving westbound on 80. So once you hit the Borman, you go into Illinois, you're going to hit some traffic right away. But the good news is that the Bishop Ford is lighter than normal, and so is the Merge. And even approaching Jane Byrne, it is not too bad. Skyway, Toll Road, Barman, I-65 are all moving along pretty well. And traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda, proudly serving Northwest Indiana with superior customer service. And then on the weather, it's got another rainy, nasty day today. 40 degrees here at the Strachan Van Til Studios on the campus of Purdue Northwest. And then it's going up to a high of about 47, but it's going to get about 30-mile-an-hour gusts. So you got a nasty, windy day coming our way later. And then tomorrow, you might have some little bit of sun, but a high in the mid-30s. Thursday, a little more rain, high around 40. And then Friday and Saturday, some very cold temperatures for this time of year as it gets down to 20 overnight or into the teens overnight. And then only makes it up a little bit over freezing in the daytime. So good luck with that going into Friday and Saturday. But you should see some sunshine. And last night, we did have the Final Four championship game on as Villanova beat up on Michigan pretty bad. We want to thank Community Healthcare, BP, and also NIPSCO for being the primary sponsors on that. We very much appreciate all of what they did to get all of the sectional basketball games on and the regionals, and also get all of the NCAA Big Ten tournament and all of the NCAA. Couldn't have done it without them, and we thank them very much. It was a hugely successful radio/streaming video tour through the end of the basketball season, and it culminated last night. Verley Suggs is here. Verley, let's talk to MX. MX, how you doing?
Pretty good, Jed. Good morning, Burley.
Good morning, MX.
You know, we watched a debate on MX cartoons, and then the Hammond Times said, quote, Martinez said he too believes in the freedom of speech. Well, during his radio show on WJOB, he doesn't accept phone calls from the public. I don't understand. He believes in free speech and doesn't take phone calls. So that one there kind of stuck out real big. And then another one, he's going to make a cyber crime unit about Facebook. And I watched the comments on the Northwest Indiana Times, and they put Facebook ? The commenters. All the crime we have in Gary and Hammond, and he's worried about Facebook. And Burley, you know, your famous words, Facebook? That's when I read that comment, Facebook, I started thinking what you used to say, Facebook? But I don't believe Oscar believes in free speech until he lets us call when he's on the radio. But that's what I have to say.
All right. Hey, thank you so much,
Do
MX.
you think that maybe he's
right,
not... Do you think that the reason he's not accepting callers is because it's election time and he figures that it might become more political, and maybe after the election he'll start taking calls?
You know, I don't know what he's figuring, but free speech is free speech, and he should be accepting calls right now because he made the statement he believes in free speech. So he made a big he contradicted himself.
Well, one of the things there, MX, and we've had this before, in that when someone is coming on to talk about the Sheriff's Department, as they have for like 60 years here on WJOB, the Sheriff's Department, it's tough during the election season because you can't talk about the politics. So if people want to call in and ask about things that are remotely related to politics, you can't talk about them. We're highly, highly regulated. It's one of the things that I kind of bitch about is that you can't talk about those things. Someone wants to call in and ask a question about.
Your interns are looking at you and saying, "How is he cursing on the air?"
Well, the thing of it is, Dowling takes calls. Dowling takes calls, so he's not afraid of political questions, right?
Well, you see, that's just it.
But Dowling's paying for his time, and Oscar's on the Lake County Sheriff, so you're paying for Oscar's time.
Yeah, I mean,
that's good. I should be able to ask any question
You
I
should
want,
be.
Right?
I agree with you entirely. I agree with you entirely, but you can't ask any question that you want. You
The
can't do
plot
that.
thickens.
No, that's that's a great point, and it gets back to my point is that when we have so many regulations that you can talk about this at certain times, you can't talk about this at other times, and I get your frustration with that. But when the Lake County Sheriff's Department comes on, we cannot talk about the elections, and that is very strict ruling on that. So he can't take questions about what you want to talk about. Yesterday, I asked him, I said, well, let's see if we have enough time right at the end, we'll be able to talk a little politics, and we were unable to do that because they had people behind him. So when Dave Dowling buys time here, he's just buying it out of his campaign, and so he can talk about anything. And I'll give you a similar one. McDermott used to buy it as part of the city of Hammond's bought a show here for decades and generations to highlight, the mayor's show usually on Fridays like we do now. But it got to the point so much that people would call in and they wouldn't, McDermott can't just keep himself to talking about the streets and about the sanitary district and stuff. He wants to weigh in on political things, and it was very difficult to keep him from doing that. So eventually we just said, all right, we just kind of agreed his campaign would pay for it. That way he could talk about whatever he wants. So it's
His
hard to
campaign's been paying for a lot of stuff.
It's hard to follow the regulations there, but that does play into it. Thanks a lot. Hey, you wanted to address Mayor McDermott.
Do you notice my shirt?
I do. Well, I noticed it when I came in.
Guess what? On Sunday after Mass, my husband took my mother and myself to see Hamilton.
Is it a
So
surprise?
this is my shirt. Well, he told us. Of course, it wasn't a surprise. But I got to see Hamilton.
Oh, my God. How was it?
It was, I'm like, want to go back again. I have to go back again and again and again. It was fantastic. Oh, my
What
goodness.
did you like about it?
I love the music. I love the costumes. I love the performances. I love the diversity, the dancing, the stage as it rotated. And oh, my gosh, it was just amazing.
Who's playing that main part right now?
I think his name was Rosario.
Rosario?
Yeah, but he was, oh my gosh, everybody was fantastic. Every character from George Washington to Thomas Jefferson to the Schuyler sisters. It was Schuler sisters. It was great. It was great.
Verley's wearing a black T-shirt. I'm pretty sure I've never seen
the first thing I did was get to the gift shop and buy all the things I could from Hamilton.
She's got a black T-shirt on. I believe it's the first time I've ever seen you in a T-shirt.
Well, that's because it's Hamilton, and so I just had to wear it.
It's kind of a dress T-shirt. It's black and gold in the spirit of Purdue Northwest, and it's first thing I noticed. I'm like, wow, that's a cool T-shirt.
Yeah,
that really is.
Hamilton.
That works. It beats all of my AC/DC and Rolling Stone T-shirts that are still
we had a
in
great
the closet.
Easter. Hamilton, and then dinner at Riva's on Navy Pier. So
did you see
great.
Drew Patrick?
No.
He has worked at Riva's on Navy Pier for many years.
Really?
Yeah. And I think he's just a weekend guy. He does some other stuff, but he comes in and he's got his regular customers, and everybody knows him at Riva. Now, I talked to him.
I had to wait. Her name was Rosa. So I don't know. I didn't know Drew worked there.
Your name came up last week.
Yeah.
And I know you want to address this. Mayor McDermott had some things to say about you, and you want to address them. I don't remember exactly what they were, but they weren't flattering.
No, they weren't flattering. It was very interesting because I tuned in. I told you I was sick, and I was tuning in that morning as I was getting ready. That was Tuesday morning. I was getting ready to go to Capitol Hill, ill as I was. But he starts out, about Verley not being here, and I know she must be, upset that it's me. I'm here, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I really care. But so I have to address him because he said, all this stuff about he doesn't know why I don't like him, and he doesn't even know me, and I don't even know him. So I have to school the mayor because there's a number of reasons why I don't like him. But because but I'm going to start by saying one thing good about him. He's good for Hammond because you can see the great things that are happening in Hammond and the development and this new data center, things that are coming to Hammond. That's fine. You're good for Hammond. Stay the mayor of Hammond. But I'm going to give you a lesson on why I don't like you. And he's so narcissistic that he has to say, oh, it must be because her husband works for NIPSCO and I've sued NIPSCO. Well, first of all, my husband's a big boy. And secondly, my husband actually kind of likes the mayor. He doesn't have a problem with the mayor. So it has nothing to do with my husband or NIPSCO because NIPSCO's a big corporation. And I'm sure they're used to dealing with difficult customers, Tom. So you're probably not the first person that's ever sued them. So really, get over yourself. Secondly, I've been watching this guy for a long time. From the time that he actually, we all have to remember, Tom McDermott was a Republican. Your cousin was the mayor of Hammond. Stig, God rest his soul, and I'm sure Bobby Cantrell had his hands in this because this is how he works. McDermott became a Democrat so he could run in an election to beat Mayor Dietlow. Okay, he couldn't have beat him as a Republican because he was popular among Republicans. All right, so that's number one. He doesn't know that I used to be on WLTH back during the Hillary Obama election when children in Gary were actually registering to vote and taking field trips to the county to vote. And he talked about them, saying they need to stay in school rather than take a field trip to vote. He didn't know how they were voting, but he was so deep into Hillary that he was just against anything that people were doing that he thought, you know, black people in Gary are all voting for Obama. Some students had to set him straight on that. In fact, one student said, hey, I was going to vote for Hillary, you know, but it doesn't matter. It was a civic lesson, and Eloise Gentry and the Urban League were involved in it, as well as the government teacher there. He has spent so much time bashing Curtis Hill. I don't think he's ever met Curtis Hill. I actually do know Curtis Hill. So you don't know Curtis Hill, but you got so much to say about him. You're even imitating him. And then the other thing, he doesn't even know what people say about him. But there's a lot of people who don't like Mayor Tom McDermott outside of his political circle. The other thing, Times just did a story about him. An $8,000 donation to Jamal Washington after he was charged with battery. Come on. Do you look at his campaign finance report? Were there other people he gave $8,000 to run your wife and introduce her in Gary? So there are a number of reasons why I don't really care for the mayor of Hammond. Back when Bunchich was naming the site for the 911 center in East Chicago was one of the chosen sites along with Hobart. Oh my gosh, the way he carried on about Bunchich. We had talked, we were supposed to get it, this and that. He doesn't even check himself out, how he responds. He's such a hypocrite. When Arredondo, when his wife was running against Paris and he was beating up on Judge Arredondo because of the switcheroo, you know, now he's endorsing him for county clerk. Give me a break. You talk out of both sides of your mouth. You whine, you complain, you're unprofessional.
Okay, all right.
There's a number of reasons.
All right,
okay,
so
I'm done.
So that was the proper thing. That was the appropriate thing to do. Mayor McDermott had some things to say about Verley, and Verley retorted in a very direct manner to just the general idea of the dislike between the two individuals. I got to ask this, though. All right, so you have exhibited very strong dislike toward Mayor McDermott as a political figure. You said, hey, he's probably good for Hammond. I get that. But, you know, I just don't
He's like Trump to me.
Okay, all right, I get that. But so in the same breath, you were a pretty strong supporter of his wife.
And that's the other part that's funny. He says that I don't like him because my husband works for NIPSCO. But if that, you know, way of thinking were to hold true, then I wouldn't like Marissa because she's married to him, right? Duh. No. I actually like Marissa. I like how she comes across. I like her personality. I don't necessarily agree with everything she's done. I think that this last ruling that she had against the against the Attorney General's office is going to come back to bite her. But that has nothing to do with her personally.
Let's talk about that one. Okay, well, do you feel better?
I didn't feel one way or another. I just had to respond because he spent so much time talking about why I don't like him, and every reason that he gave was fake.
You know, it's kind of odd because I look at this and
give me a break.
You see the people that get along and don't get along, and I guess just from knowing you and from knowing the mayor, if I just had to make a guess, I would think that you would get along because you guys are both very outspoken about things, and for some reason, it's just I guess it's just
I'm just not a phony. If I'm one way, I'm that way. People know me. They respect me. They respect my opinion. There's just, that guy, he says one thing one time, and then when it comes to him, it's totally different. He talked about supporting incumbents, but when Bunchik wanted to support Paris because he was the incumbent, he was offended by that because his wife was running.
Okay,
He doesn't,
all right.
that's what I'm talking
Okay,
about.
I got this. I understand the history here. But I want to talk about the thing you brought up. Munster is trying to get back $851,000 that was given to Superintendent Sopko and then Assistant Superintendent Pfister. It is a very sore subject in the town of Munster, in that Munster has had to have 2 referendums to raise more money in what is fairly widely thought of as a fairly badly run school system and financially for a number of years. At the same time that was happening, Sopko and Pfister were taking these pretty large bonuses that they may not have been entitled to, or they may have been entitled to. Either way, there is a suit by the Attorney General's office representing Munster, basically, to get that money back from Sopko and Pfister. It went into the court of Marissa McDermott, the Lake Circuit judge. She ruled against Curtis Hill and the people that want to get the money back. From what I understand, it was one of the issues was the missing. They missed the deadline, and she said that it wasn't valid. Curtis Hill is now saying that he's going to turn around and he's going to appeal that decision. What's your take on this?
Well, basically, and I have a copy of his press release. It has to do with the State Board of Accounts. And once you have the finding, then that's where you file after the finding. Because if that was the case, Second Century in East Chicago that had a contract bilking East Chicago out of millions of dollars over the years would have never been able to be charged through the Attorney General's office. And some of those funds, a small amount of those funds, recouped. Bob Pastrick with the RICO Act. None of that money would have been recouped to the city of East Chicago. So usually it happens from the time of the findings, not actually maybe from the time that the fraud or event took place.
So, outside of arguing the merits of the case, well, let's just see what I have that same press release. I was a little surprised to see this come out, partly because I had just interviewed Curtis Hill, but the timing was
the
same day. So, typically it's like, hey, why don't you mention this? But
I had a conversation with him that same day.
Why didn't he mention it to me?
Did you ask him about it?
Well, I mean, how am I going to even think that he's going to?
And let me say this. Part of the process is Lake County does not always send their rulings downstate immediately. So there are times that there are rulings made in Lake County that the Attorney General's office and downstate, they do not get those findings right away.
Attorney General Curtis Hill announced that his office will appeal a Lake County judge's decision prohibiting the state from recovering funds overpaid to 2 former administrators in the Munster School District. In 2016, the State Board of Accounts found that Superintendent William Pfister and former Assistant Superintendent Richard Sopko, both now retired, received annuity payments during their tenure to which they were not entitled. The SBOA, the State Board of Accounts, designated more than $841,000 as misappropriated. Pfister got about $463,000 and Sopko got about $378,000, something like that. The Lake County judge ordered that the state could not collect any damages that arose before 2012 opining that the statute of limitations had expired. Curtis Hill argues that Indiana law is clear that the statute of limitations begins running at the point the SBOA refers an audit to the Office of the Attorney General. In this case, such a referral occurred in 2016. The Office of the Attorney General filed its complaint in 2017, well within the statute of limitations. So here's what Hill said. He said the ruling completely disregards the State Board of Accounts audit process. Cases arising out of SBOA audits are especially important to the state because their purpose is to protect public funds. The state must always be able to recoup taxpayer dollars and root out fraud committed by public officials and employees. We must hold those who violate the law accountable, and we must ensure that those who take wrongful advantage of their positions of trust do not profit from ill-gotten gains. I read most of it because I know that there's people in Munster who are confused right now at the ruling, and I looked at some of the background material here, and the statute of limitations, if it holds, is a statute of limitations. On the other hand, if it could be seen another way, that would be cool because everybody wants this money back.
Of course.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't see it as any sort of, thing against Marissa McDermott. She's just doing her law, reading a law the way that she reads it. And I don't think that Curtis Hill is doing anything political here. He's going after aggressively as he should. I think people are just playing out their roles here.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with Marissa either, but apparently, as that press release states, perhaps she wasn't familiar enough to know the rulings regarding State Board of Accounts filings based on findings and not necessarily based on the date of action when that event took place, when they received that money versus when the State Board of Accounts came in and had the finding. And then when the Attorney General's office actually filed charges.
It sounds like, this is, if the Court of Appeals takes it up, this could go up the chain and see if they can really go after it. I know that there's a lot of people in Munster who are in two sides. On one side, it's like we need to do everything we can to get this money back from these individuals. They should not have taken it. It's taking money out of the educational process for kids, and what bigger sin is there? Okay? There's a lot of people on the other side are just like, man, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Munster has gotten past this, and any talk about it just drags us back again into the morass. Yeah, so I'm hearing both sides.
So that's interesting because people have so much money, and the school system has so much money that they don't care if someone has close to $1 million. Munster can afford to lose $1 million and say, so what, move on.
I don't think it's that as much as people are just tired of hearing about it.
Oh, no, don't put a black eye on Munster and what Munster's doing. So let's just forget about it because we don't want Munster in the paper or in the press. Let's focus on Gary because they got enough issues. They overpaid their superintendent $30,000. That's far more important than paying ours $850,000.
Really? Do you have that much of I guess a negative feeling toward Munster to digest this information like that?
But you know what? There's not a negative feeling toward Munster at all. I have a lot of friends who live in Munster. It sounded like
you just did.
No, if you say that people don't want to,
they don't want to hear about this anymore.
But they love to. People love to talk about the ill things happening in other communities in the urban North Lake County, and that's an issue that took place in Munster. It's an important issue, and people in Munster should be concerned. You can't just push something under the rug because it's Munster, but focus on it when it's happening in other communities.
Maybe I wasn't articulate enough on this, in that I don't think anybody has pushed anything in the rug because this has been at the top of this show and at the top of the newspaper and at the top of people's conversations for 6 years now. Okay. And at some point, there needs to be some resolution to it. Yeah, right. It would be nice to get the money back to the school system, But I think that there are a lot of people that feel like, hey, let's just move on from the negativity that came with all of that. And that's it. It's not like nobody doesn't want the money.
They just actually had to file for 2 referendums in the town of Munster because of shortfalls. So is $1 million, and it's almost $1 million, and I don't know if they have to pay interest on it or what. It's almost $1 million. I'm sure there are individuals who actually lost jobs and positions in the Munster School Corporation as a result of not having enough money.
I think we're talking about 2 different things.
Well, you said that people want to move on, and they just
want to move on from their attention on this. Let Curtis Hill and Marissa McDermott, fight it out and whatever. But I try to get people to, ask them and so forth. And I'll tell you what, the people in Munster are like, hey, listen, they can figure out what they did. It seems like they've righted Hendricks, the superintendent, has righted the ship. I don't want to sit here and talk about this. I don't want to deal with this right now because they're headed in the right direction and it doesn't do any kids any good.
I understand they don't want to talk about it, but do they want justice served?
I don't know about that. I think everybody wants the money back.
Oh, okay then. So I think we're on the right page because everyone in East Chicago wanted that money back from Second Century too. It might have taken 2 decades to get it or however long it took, but they got some of it, and they got them out of the casino dollars, which was the main thing, cutting off their flow.
And do you know what happened in that one? And when I was trying to interview people about that, 10 years into the story, hey, man, this is still important. There's public funds that are at risk. Almost hands down, it was like, yeah, we would like the funds back, but more important to us is that they can't do it anymore. If you remember that correctly.
Oh, yeah.
That they can't do it anymore. And I think that's what's going on here is that's like, listen, we want the money back and let's fight for it and everything. But what's important is that William Pfister and Richard Sopko can't soak the school city of Munster anymore. And maybe that's where the more poignant interest is. Can they do it anymore? No, they can't do it anymore. But those loopholes are closed.
Well, that's good because you don't want someone else finding another loophole. That's for sure.
She's, there he is. I got to take a break. I'll be right back. Voice and face of the region.
JED's Garden Family Restaurant, located at the corner of Klein and Ridge, is Griffith's locally owned family restaurant with a down-home feel and made-from-scratch favorites you'll love. Open daily from 5 a.m. to midnight, JED's features all-day breakfast, lunch, dinner, and night digs. For family-friendly dining with free Wi-Fi, stop in today at JED's. With your meal, make sure you try our award-winning lemon rice soup. Mention WJOB to receive 20% off your order at JED's.
Laborers Local 41, together with Indiana Laborers Training Center and our signatory employers, provide state-of-the-art instruction in all areas of the construction industry, from hazardous material handling and environmental remediation to road construction and highway safety. Remember to slow down in construction zones and that the Local 41 members working there are mothers, fathers, coaches, and mentors. Laborers Local 41, we build Indiana in more ways than one.
At Corellis Roofing, our motto is, above all, a good roof. The workers here at Corellis Roofing are some of the highest trained and qualified roofing mechanics that our industry has to offer. And I'm glad that they've chosen Corellis Roofing for their careers. I would like Corellis Roofing to be thought of in the community as the roofing contractor of choice for our customers. Corellis Roofing is a proud member of the Northwest Indiana community.
Fill your garage with your dream car during the Honda Dream Garage Spring event going on now at Napleton's River Oaks Honda. They're Northwest Indiana's destination for new and certified pre-owned Hondas. Napleton's River Oaks Honda has a huge selection of brand new and certified pre-owned Civics, Accords, CRVs, and Pilots. Come find out why you always get our best deal at River Oaks Honda. As always, Indiana residents pay Indiana sales tax right off 8094 on Torrance Avenue or online at riveroakshonda.com.
Napleton, second to none since 1931.
Thanks to Tony Ponick sitting in for Ryan Walsh today. Ryan gets a deserved day off. Our main producer here in the morning and the sports director here at WJOB. He watched the national championship game and helped monitor it on the radio here as we had that game and the post game. So he was pretty busy late last night, so he has a scheduled day off. Also, thanks a lot to Jimmy Mullaney, who has joined the morning crew team, as Sam Michael, who used to be the video producer here in the morning, has moved to his own show, Sam in the Midday, from 1 to 3 in the afternoon. He will not be there today, as he is also works at a church and presides over funerals, and he's got to do one today. Also, we are asking for your thoughts and prayers for our own Ron Harlow, who about a half hour ago was taken out of his room at University of Illinois Chicago Hospital, and he's going into a brain surgery. And this all came about as just happened very quickly, and he will be going in there this morning and coming out sometime this afternoon. And we're all thinking about him and waiting for some word on how it went, as Harlow will be going under. They're putting him under pretty soon, actually. And let's take a look at traffic. 294 around the city looks pretty good, but it is still a problem getting to 294, as you have from a little bit past Torrance all the way to that entrance to 294 is still backed up as an earlier middle lane semi stopped, and that can be a real problem, and it certainly is now. It looks like they got it out of the way. I don't know why it's still so bad. Maybe it's off to the side and just people can't get by, but for right now, it looks like it's out of the way. 294, if you can get there, is moving along really well. So is 80 going west. Hey, Bishop Ford and the Dan Ryan, for some reason, are a little bit lighter than normal, as you are looking at maybe 113th on up to 87th. A little slowness through that area. And it's even lighter than you would expect going into Jane Byrne on the Dan Ryan. Skyway and the toll road, Borman, I-65 are all moved along well. Just to reiterate that US 41 in Highland, the big bridge over the railroad tracks going to Meyer, is down to one lane. That's a problem. And that's going to be a problem all summer long into November. So just get used to it. You can already feel the extra traffic on Kennedy and on Calumet getting across the tracks and over that direction. So just plan accordingly. Calumet is no picnic at rush hour already, but I could feel it. Yesterday I was just driving around, going a couple places, and you could feel at rush hour there was more people on Calumet Avenue. So we'll keep an eye on all three of those, Indianapolis Boulevard, Kennedy, and Calumet, going through Munster, Highland, Dyer, Cherville, even Griffith over there on Klein Avenue could get some issues there. All right. Traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda. You just heard from them. In terms of the weather, this one's brought to you by CertifiedElectrician.com. If you need electrical work done, have it done by a union-based contractor, CertifiedElectrician.com. And winds right now are about 10 miles an hour out of the east. Later on, it's going to change the gusts out of the northeast up to about 30 miles an hour. High of 47 today. Wispy, rainy day. Tomorrow, though, some sun comes out, but it gets colder, high in the mid-30s. High around 40 on Thursday with some more rain. And then Friday and Saturday, it really drops with highs in the mid-30s along with a little bit of sun. And markets this morning have come back a little bit from that big drop last night, as we are officially down 10% from the highs on many of the major stock indices. And right now, the Dow has bounced back about 150 this morning. Verly Suggs is here, and she has copious notes right next to her. But
those were notes from the debate last night, basically, from the candidate forum.
And that candidate forum was on the campus of Purdue Northwest, just a block away here. And, we kind of hit it. If you want to hear some more of that, all you got to do is wait till this Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube thing ends, and then you can go back and watch it. There's a couple of other things that I wanted to hit, and one of those is the horrible story of the two little kids who died in the Lakeshore Dunes apartments in Miller. And the mom is a woman by the name of Kristen Gober. The judge lowered her bond again.
Well, yeah, this is the second time that Judge Diane Boswell lowered the bond. And the father of Christopher Gober, the 4-year-old son, as a result of the fire, first of all, the 6-year-old and the 4-year-old were actually playing. The mother was nowhere to be found. She was with the maintenance man, spent the night in his apartment, left her 3 children at home, a 6, a 4, and a 2-year-old. Now, the 2-year-old and the 4-year-old got that morning. Their mother was still not at home. They started playing with a blanket near the stove. It caught on fire. The 3 children huddled in a room under the blanket in their mother's room. Finally, the 6-year-old came out of the apartment, but the 2-year-old and the 4-year-old was still left there in the apartment. The maintenance man came out to see what was going on, saw the fire, saw the 6-year-old in the hallway. The mother actually did not even try and go into the apartment to rescue her children. She was actually found. She had walked down Lake Street. Oh, I'm sorry. I have that ring at my house, so that just let me know that somebody's at my house. Turn that down. But the mother was actually found at the McDonald's on Lake Street. She told the police that she had tried to enter the apartment, but they were not able to smell smoke on her clothing or anything. She never notified the fire department or told them that her children were in this apartment. Never once. So not only did she not try and rescue her kids, she did not even let authorities know that her children were there, and she left the scene of this fire. Now, the father, Christopher Hardin, had tried to get custody of his son. He knew he was in a dangerous environment, had just gone before the judge a week ago, said that his son was in danger, and the judge told him it's going to take time. So sadly, Judge Garza, I believe it's a magistrate, basically has to deal with this, to me, this child's life on her hands as well, because the father was going to, the next hearing was April 27th, where he would see if he was going to get custody, and now his son is dead. So yes, he is really upset. The mother's gotten 2 reductions in her bond, and he probably feels that she shouldn't get any reductions. I mean, she's drinking vodka, allegedly drinking vodka, getting high. They found marijuana in her purse, and this is not her first time that she's had a fire involving children and children who have been at issue and have been taken away from her custody. So she has a history of, being in the Department of Children and Family Services. And this is just tragic that 2 children lost their lives at the Lakeshore Dunes apartments.
She's Vertley Suggs. Of course, most of what she has pointed to has appeared in the paper, in both the Times and the Post. Much of it is still alleged at this point, and we will treat it as such. But there are some things that are coming out on this. So there's really 2 major issues here. First of all, that the dad's mad at the one judge for lowering the bond. Okay, and that is Judge Diane Boswell. And the dad is also upset that he was unable to get sole custody of the 4-year-old? 4-year-old.
The 4-year-old
Chris Gober ahead of this fire. They had scheduled there was a mediation scheduled for April 27th, according to court records here in the Times. I don't even know what to say about this one. I drove over there the day after it, and just kind of, what are you going to say? I mean, there's a little blackness on the side of the building and so forth, and really life had gone on to its normal pace.
One bright note, though, is that an 8-year-old was able to jump to safety from an apartment during that fire, that individuals had enough forethought to grab a blanket and, get together and hold that blanket, and he was able to survive. Now, he was not one of the children in the apartment, but he actually survived jumping from a 4th-floor apartment.
Yeah, there is cell phone video out there of the 8-year-old jumping into the blanket from 4 floors. And if you've ever jumped from, say, the 2nd floor onto anything, you can't imagine how frightening that had to be for this kid. And quite frankly, how lucky everybody had to be that he landed on the blanket. I mean, if you watch the video, it's a miracle. The whole thing's a miracle. And then the blanket didn't rip, and that you had a couple guys there that looked like they had some strength to be able to absorb it. But I mean, a lot of things had to go right for that kid to make it, and he did. There's some other cell phone video on this, and this is really horrific in that there is the 6-year-old. They can show him in his pajamas and his no shirt on, just like average 6-year-old, maybe a little, bitty kid belly there, and you could see him trying to go back and yell, and you can hear the people screaming, and there's a stairwell, and you can see that the stairwell is completely flooded with smoke, and the kid tries to run up into the smoke, and then he has to be held back by a man there, and he's like, hey, my brother and sister are up there, and I got it.
He did more to try and rescue his brother and sister than his own mother did, and sadly, we don't know, why he was able to get out and his brother and sister were not, but we know that they were overcome with smoke inhalation. There was some degree of burns, but not a lot of degrees of burns. So who knows? They might have been unconscious, and he was still conscious and able to get away. But he was trying to rescue his brother and sister.
Yeah, it was horrible. It's a horror. The miracle video of the kid being rescued, but it's a horrible video. I mean, luckily they're not showing the kid's head. On many of them have been the ones I've seen have been edited. Can't see the kid's face, but you can see his body, and it's like any little 6-year-old. He's trying to run in to just basically a black cloud of smoke. This is a horrible story. And all the Chicago news was down at the courthouse yesterday, along with the Times and Post. And, it's I don't know what to say about this one other than at some point we'll move on from this. What else you want to hit?
Well, Amazon.
Why do you want to hit Amazon?
Well, what's happening with Amazon as a result of President Trump? Stock is plummeting. In fact, they had a day where their stock went lower than Facebook's as far as loss in just one day as a result of the president's tweets, whatever, from Twitter. And how do you feel about Amazon and e-commerce being able to shop online and have it delivered for free to your home, Amazon Prime and what have you? Do you think it's unfair to other groups? And is the president just retaliating because maybe some of his businesses are not doing as well, or some of his friends' businesses aren't doing as well as a result of Amazon?
Well, I don't know as if I have the same kind of interest in what Amazon and Trump are going after. It's a complete Trump's war with Amazon, and the Washington Post is personal. Amazon. So Trump tweet sends Amazon shares tumbling. What does he mean about the post office? I mean, he's saying some kind of crazy.
He's saying the post office is losing money because Amazon ships are free. He's saying all kinds of crazy things that the post office has been losing money for years because of emails and every other reason why. You have FedEx, UPS, hi Dave, FedEx. So there's lots of reasons why the post office is losing money. It's a huge bureaucracy. That's another part of the problem. But him and Amazon.
Ultimately, I take Facebook, and it's a similar argument with Amazon. I have from the start, and you've heard me kind of go on about it. I've rambled about it in my blog that the main problem here is that there is inequitable regulation, and Facebook knew this and has been able to take advantage of it. Amazon knows this, and they're able to take advantage of it. And at some point, these loopholes that they're using do have to be closed. I'm not going on with Donald Trump, but here I'll give you a couple examples. First of all, in terms of Facebook, they have a better way of connecting people. There's no doubt about it. They have a great way of connecting people, but they also have this way of connecting people that is beyond the reach of normal regulation of anything we do in this country. I have complete regulation of what we do. If you just take AM regulation, AM radio regulation, and you put it on Facebook, we'll have none of these problems. Now, the president of France has come out and said, hey, listen, I would like to see Facebook being broken up, kind of like America did when they broke up the oil companies in the late 1800s. And that sounds at first like a
Or telecommunications, the
yes,
phone companies.
the phone companies. When they have that much power over people's lives, you have to break them up because it is a monopolistic power right now that Facebook has, and they have it without regulation. That is, to me, they figured that out a long time ago. It's like, hey, we have this really good way of doing it. We also have it. If we tell people that, hey, we don't regulate what goes on our Facebook pages, the algorithm does, then why should anybody regulate us? We're not making any decisions. We're not saying hate speech can't be there. We can't put murders on there, whatever. Everything can just go up, and then if it's so bad, maybe later we'll take it down.
We'll pull it.
Yeah, that's their only regulation.
Okay.
Well, Amazon has similar things. I try to buy from a place called Sweetwater. All of our broadcasting equipment. It's
Sweetwater is now near Elkhart. I know someone who worked for there. They have a huge warehouse right there on US 30.
And a lot of times we buy stuff, with the help of our many sponsors in the $5,000, $10,000 range. And I'll call them and say, hey, listen, I want to get this. And all right, yeah, well, it's $9,700 plus taxes, blah, blah, blah. So you've got another, $680 left on that, on top of that, right? Like, okay. Then I go online and I say, all right, Amazon, same thing. Oh, same price. It's the same price. No tax. I don't have to pay any tax.
Right.
So now I've got to make a decision. Do I buy it off of the Indiana-based company here for $680 more?
And I'm in Fort Wayne,
yes,
not Elkhart, Fort Wayne. Going toward Fort Wayne.
Yeah, it's kind of on the south end of Fort Wayne.
Right.
And it's a great company.
Yeah.
And people have to make those decisions because Amazon is able to operate just like Facebook does outside of what normal businesses
Toys
have
R
to
Us
do.
going out of business because Walmart can lower the price, or you can buy it on Amazon and have it shipped and no tax. So
Walmart, for the most part, at their stores that are where they are, they're paying the state taxes. A lot of times Amazon is not paying the state taxes.
all right, so if I buy something from Illinois and they don't have the same store in Indiana, I don't pay the state taxes. But the whole thing is, when President Trump ran and people talked about his businesses and his companies and the lack of tax dollars that he was paying, he said, hey, if these loopholes exist, if I'm able to take advantage of it, then don't fault me for taking advantage of it. Change the laws. Didn't he say that?
Yes. And that is hopefully, Facebook and Google aren't going to like when I say this, and I've been saying this on my blog for a long time. They're going to be better off in the long run if they address their problems now. And that's the problem with Facebook, is that they had a memo that came out in 2016 that some of the executives were like, hey, man, we need to put some curbs on ourselves for all the data we're collecting on people. We need to do it in a more responsible manner. And one of the guys says, nope, it's growth at all costs. And here's your backlash. I don't feel sorry for them. I use Facebook, I use Twitter, I use YouTube because they had all the money to develop something I wanted to develop. But I'll tell you what, don't cry for me, baby, because you guys had your chance to pull back on all of the data. What I keep saying, smart money and the Russians go where there's no regulation, and that is to Facebook. And it can really break down generally what's going on in our society right now, and that's what I warned against. I still believe it. All they have to do is regulate Facebook like they regulate AM radio. Same thing, just do the exact. They got to get a license. If somebody puts in a complaint, they've got to investigate it. And if they don't, and if they do stuff that's really bad, they get their license taken away, and there can be no Facebook, just like AM radio.
And there'll be something else that will take its place, as always. Hey, sorry to hear about your 10 o'clock morning host being on vacation, suspension, you name it.
Oh,
losing
Laura
sponsors,
Ingram.
big time.
17.
Liberty Mutual, one of the latest ones.
Wayfair, Hulu, General Electric.
Yes.
They all walked away.
Good job, David.
From Laura Ingram by David Hogg going after. I don't know. She's on a 2-week vacation.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
probably a good strategic move on her part. I don't know what's going to happen with that show. I do want to address one other thing. Dan Carden yesterday,
How did he do?
The Northwest Indiana Times writer, was on Jeopardy yesterday, and he wouldn't tell us what it was. If you guys heard it here, and he's like, I can't tell you what it is. I was making fun of him. Was there anything in there that you would, you made a stupid thing, and your buddies are going to bust you on you the rest of your life? Because it had something to do with ballet shoes, but he was winning. And he had gotten up to like $12,000. Everybody else was like $3,000 or $5,000. And then all of a sudden, they all came up. And then the woman and the man that he was against got up to like $14,000 and $15,000. And he was at $12,800. And they go to the Double Jeopardy. And Carden goes first. And what they did is they showed a picture of Robert Kennedy. And they said, who is this guy? It wasn't a picture. It was a drawing. And who is this guy? And what cabinet level was he the head of? And Carden, we were watching. I go, Carden knows this. He's such a political junkie. He's got this. And he was Robert Kennedy was
Attorney General.
Attorney General. So the answer was Department of Justice, because that was where he was the head of. And so they go to Carden. He gets it right. He had bet all of his money. So he goes up to $25,600. Then it goes over to the other two contestants, and they both got it wrong. Dan Carden won Jeopardy yesterday. He'll be on again today.
Oh, fantastic! I'll watch him today.
So 3:30, you could watch Dan Carden, who calls us every Monday from Indianapolis, and it was very exciting. Verly, as always, thanks for coming in.
Hey, thanks, Jim. It's always a pleasure.
All right, guys, be right back.
To the millions of you who have defended our freedom, here's a chance to find some of your own. Now through September, Calumet Harley-Davidson is offering a $99 Harley-Davidson Riding Academy Basic Rider course for all eligible current and former U.S. military personnel, first responders, and your spouses who do not have a motorcycle endorsement. Simply log on to CalumetHarley.com/American Heroes for details.
Classes must be completed by September 30th, 2018. Open to eligible service members of the U.S. military, firefighters, law enforcement, paramedics, EMTs, and their spouses only. Age 18 and over. Dealer participation may vary. Course availability on first come, first served basis. Void where prohibited or restricted by law.
Looking to advance your career? Earn a master's degree in technology online in just 18 months from Purdue University Northwest. Our graduates tell us their master's degree in technology, leadership, and management results in promotion and higher pay. Call Purdue Northwest at 219-989-2966. That's 219-989-2966 to get ahead today.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? 7:55 in the Calumet region. I'm Jim Delo on AM, FM, radio in Hammond, Indiana, 1230 and 104.7 FM, WJOB. And we are also on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube video. And taking a last look at traffic, 294. Finally, that problem on I-80 is out. 294 looks good. 80 going east and west looks good. The Bishop Ford and Dan Ryan are lighter than normal, and the Skyway and the toll road are moved along pretty well. And don't forget, US 41, Indianapolis Boulevard down to one lane through Highland on the big bridge going into Meyer, and that will last through November. Traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda. In terms of the weather, 40 degrees here at the Strachan Van Til Studios, going up to a high of 47. Wednesday, a high of 38, brisk and cold with some sun. And then Thursday, a high of 43, cloudy with a shower or two. And the weather is brought to you by our good friends at Labor's Local 41, of which, of course, I'm a proud alum of that fine union. And the markets right now going into an 8:30 open are up about 171 on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Did you know that I am a former member of the Laborers Union? Did you know that, sir?
No, I did not.
Edward Clark is in my sports broadcasting class, and going forward for the next 2 weeks, I will have my students in here on the morning, and they will be just kind of watching my bad habits. And then ultimately, in about 2 weeks, they're going to be doing 1-hour shows, and they're going to be doing those live in the evenings. And you guys will be able to listen and watch that once it comes along. But Edward, how you doing? Edward, where are you from?
I'm doing good. I'm from East Chicago, Indiana.
Central?
Yes, sir.
EC Central Cardinal, what year?
2017, just graduated.
Just graduated. Freshman. I didn't know that.
Yes, sir.
I thought you were a little bit older. Why such an interest in sports, Edward?
Just growing up, something you could escape from. Life was hard for me growing up, so when I look at sports, it's like I was sucked into it, like say like a video game. Like you know how like Thunderstruck when Kevin Durant gave the ball to the kid. I feel like it was just like that connection. It was like just a special connection. Once I started watching my first sport, like the Lakers versus Celtics in a NBA Finals, I was sunk in. It's something I couldn't take my eyes off, and I know that is something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Edwards, along with a number of other unlucky people, are in my sports broadcasting class, and he gets to learn my bad habits. I didn't realize he was so young. He was a freshman because he's got a pretty deep knowledge of sports. But I'm gonna follow up on this because we are on live radio. That and I've told you guys you got to expect everything. You said something I got to follow up with. You said you had a rough upbringing. What do you mean by that?
Family stuff. Family was getting into a lot.
So some family stuff. I'm not asking for details, but family stuff. You grew up in East Chicago. There's a lot of crime. There's a lot of stuff. Is any of that part of the equation here?
Definitely. And it was something. It was hard. It was something hard not to get into. So I would tend to stay inside all day, and just sports caught my eye. Luckily, if I didn't have sports, I'd probably be on the street right now doing bad. I probably wouldn't be in college if it wasn't for sports.
And speaking of sports, you mentioned the Los Angeles Lakers. So does that mean that in this ongoing discussion of like who's the greatest basketball player of all time, your vote's going to go for Kobe Bryant?
Not at all.
Who is it go to?
LeBron.
Same here. And Edward and I agree on one thing, and that is LeBron James is the best basketball player, bar none. Better than Michael Jordan, better than Kobe, better than Larry Bird, better than Bill Russell, going back to Bob Cousy and all this. Every time I watch that guy play, I just can't believe he's so strong and so good and so poised. And we are going into the NBA playoffs, and I got to tell you guys, just like when Michael played, you got to enjoy it and take some time to watch the Cavaliers play because you can only play for so long. And to watch that kind of greatness is just it just doesn't come around that often. Anything to add to that?
Definitely. When LeBron finally decides to retire, people that hate on him, they're gonna regret that day. They're gonna wake up one day and say, "Why did I ever hate this man?" I don't know.
There it is, and they're out there. Hey, let's talk about the game last night. Villanova's what's his name? DiCincenzo of D something or other. Dante DiVincenzo. How in the heck does a guy come off the bench to score 31 points in the national championship game? If he's not there, Michigan wins that game last night.
Definitely. I can't believe either. I believe everybody's eyes were shocked when they found out the third leading scorer for the Villanova Wildcats shockingly scored 31 points. He was 5 for 7 from the three-point line. Shot over 50%, even 60%. He just had an unbelievable game, and he couldn't be stopped. He just had confidence.
Villanova came in with what many considered the best point guard in a number of years in college basketball. And this guy had a horrible game. Jalen Brunson, I was a huge fan of this guy. He only played 28 minutes. They had to take him out for a while. He was playing so badly. Plus, he had a couple fouls. and DiVincenzo just took this game over. Jalen Brunson had his worst game of the year, and they still won. And they still won handily. 79-62 Villanova over Michigan. Edward, were you surprised that at some point Michigan stopped going to Mo Wagner down low? They just kind of forgot about him.
I was very surprised. I don't understand when teams find something that works, they completely abandon it. It seems like a lot of teams in today's leagues, they find a rhythm early, then late they just abandon it completely. I don't understand it.
Purdue did that a lot. They would go to Isaac Haas for about 10 minutes, and then they'd forget he was there. And then that's what happened last night. Wagner finishes the game with 16 points for Michigan, and Abdur Rahman, he had a great game. He had 23 points. So it was really only those two people, Wagner and Abdur Rahman, that played. Livers didn't have a very good game. Matthews, Robinson played horribly. He got 0 points. And Xavier Simpson did have 10, but some of that was in mop-up duty. So it was basically 2 against 5 for a good portion of that game. Hey, Edward, thanks for coming in this morning, and hopefully you learned something, and hopefully you did, because you're going to get graded on the broadcast clock, station IDs, taking your breaks, and all that stuff. You looking forward to doing a whole hour show?
Definitely. I'm going to just give it all I can, be calm, play smooth, and see how it goes. All I can do is get better.
You don't have to worry about Edward playing it smooth, because he's got that down. Thanks a lot, Edward. Thanks for coming in. All right, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. There it is. We've got Dan Repay up next. Speaking of basketball fans, I want to thank Dan Repay for his donation of his time. Well, I don't think you can say that. For giving up his time to be the analyst for many high school basketball games, many girls and boys games. I mean, that's kind of how it goes. Kuziak gives up his time. Repay gives up his time. John Pagatti gives up his time. Kirk the Minnow Smith. All these guys kind of come in and they help out. And that way it helps us cut our costs. Plus, we have pretty quality broadcast. So thanks a lot to Repay on that. All right, up next, Sam Michael and Dan Repay. They're going to talk about the Little Calumet River. It's going to be part of the Community Programming Initiative, which is paid programming, which starts in about 3 minutes. Hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Voice and face of the region, AM 1230, 104.7, WJOB in Hammond, Indiana.
This is Raimundo Garcia speaking. You know, the busboy from El Taco Real. I'm here at WJLB to announce that I am not the most interesting man in the world. I use bar soap when I shave. I once ate a hot dog with ketchup on it. I put my jeans on one leg at a time. When I drink beer, I sometimes drink